If you tacked on $5,000 to $10,000 to your price tomorrow, would that scare clients off or make them want it more? Now, most experts assume that raising prices kills sales, but what they miss is that clients don't buy effort. They don't buy hours. They buy value that they can't get anywhere else. And if your clients can't see the value that only you can deliver, it doesn't matter how amazing your skills or deliverables are, they won't pay what you deserve. And ultimately, you end up undercharging, over-delivering, and constantly chasing the wrong clients. Don't believe me? Which of these options instantly makes you see the value? A painter who's charging $2,000 a month to paint a mural, or an artist that charges $7,000 for a mural that tells your family story across a 10-year timeline, a masterpiece you'll treasure forever? You see the difference? Same skills, same labor, but one leaves you wondering if it's even worth it, and the other feels like a once-in-a-lifetime steal. That's the power of being incomparable. When your offer stands alone, you don't chase, you don't justify, you command higher prices that clients are eager to pay. But if clients can compare you to 5 other options, your expertise won't matter. You'll be stuck discounting, negotiating, and undervaluing your work. So today, I'm going to show you how to command $5,000 to $10,000 higher prices without scaring clients off, and how to make your offer feel like the obvious choice, even if the competitors charge less. So let's get real. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. I'm your host, Echeverria. And if you're new here, this is the show where we cut the fluff so you know how to grow and scale a successful business in half the time using the Netflix effect. Now, last week, we dug into how your IP isn't just a way to make sales easier. It's a way to create a 24/7 silent business partner where you build it correctly. It takes on the heavy lifting across your entire business, scaling your authority, protecting your positioning, and creating leverage that keeps working even when you're not. Because once your IP is pulling its weight as a true business partner, it changes the rules of growth. You're no longer stuck in the game of chasing leads or relying on your brain power to succeed. Instead, you get to use that leverage to command more authority, more trust, and yes, higher prices. Which brings us to today's conversation: how you can raise your prices by $5,000 to $10,000 without scaring clients off, even when your competitors charge much less. Because the truth is, higher prices don't push clients away when your offer is incomparable. It actually brings clients in. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make that shift and why your clients will see a higher price as the deal of a lifetime. Now, I've seen this play out with my own clients again and again. One was a relationship coach who doubled her prices to $20,000, and instead of losing sales, she closed faster and had her first $70,000 a month. Or a somatic healer who took a $1,000 program, repositioned it, and started selling it at $5,000. And the same people who said no before were suddenly jumping in at 5 times the price. And I helped an agency owner going from justifying every invoice to landing clients at double his original price, all because the positioning shifted the effort and deliverables to a one-of-a-kind outcome that only his system created. Now, all of these clients have one common theme: raising the price didn't break their sales process. It actually made buyers lean in faster, because once your value is undeniable and incomparable, the higher price just feels like a smarter choice. And let's be real, you want to finally charge what you're worth without that little voice in your head asking, but will anyone actually pay this? And you want to have clients who look at your offer and think, yeah, that's the only option that makes sense. And you want to stop slashing prices or throwing in bonuses or running mental gymnastics just to try and prove your value. And you want to be able to raise your price and watch clients lean in harder and not back away. And honestly, you want to make sales feel lighter, because clients are already convincing themselves before you ever open your mouth. Now, that's the difference between scraping by at market rate and running a business where premium pricing is just the baseline. But here's what's probably happening instead. You're stuck undercharging because you're worried raising prices will send your clients running. You keep over delivering just to try and make the price feel worth it. You've got competitors that are charging less, and deep down, you feel like you have to match them just to try and stay in the game. And every sales call feels like a performance where you're trying to prove you're worth it instead of clients walking in already sold. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted, because it feels like no matter how good you are, the math never adds up in your favor. Sound familiar? And in a market where everyone's preaching that people just aren't buying the way they used to, the real problem isn't the market, it's how you're positioned inside of it. And today, We're going to have some tough conversations and, yeah, even a little bit of harder truths about what that actually means to your business right now. But first, I need you to understand why this comes up in the first place and what the most common advice in premium pricing is. Now, right now, you're being told to charge what you're worth, something that sounds really empowering until you realize that nobody can actually tell you what that means. Worth isn't a number, it's a feeling, and feelings don't fit in a calculator. Or base your price on time and effort. So now your value is tied to how many hours you can grind out, which means the faster and the better you get, the less you can charge. Make it make sense. Or match what your competitors are charging. This is the fastest way to make yourself blend in with everyone else. And let's be honest, it turns into a race to the bottom. And spoiler, nobody wins. And last but not least is just stack it with bonuses and extras until it's irresistible. It sounds good, right? More value equals more sales, except buyers scroll through your irresistible offer and get confused, not excited. Suddenly, your 5K offer feels like $500 in spaghetti that you can't tell where the real value is. The worst part, you've just spent all this time building these extras to justify the price, and it doesn't even move the needle. The problem with all of these tactics is that they focus on the symptom, not the root cause. Charging your worth, pricing by hours, matching competitors, stacking bonuses, they're all surface level fixes that look like they should solve the problem, but they don't actually touch what actually determines the value in your buyer's brain. And here's the truth. People don't pay more because you worked harder or you stacked bonuses or you tried to prove your worth. They pay more when your offer is incomparable, when it's the kind of value that they can't stack against anyone else. That's when the psychology flips and a $5,000 to $10,000 jump doesn't feel like a stretch, it feels like a steal. But this is where most experts completely miss the mark. They think that pricing is just math. Raise it, lower it, stack stuff, justify it. But pricing is actually psychology. So let's break this down, starting with understanding price elasticity. Now, price elasticity is just a fancy economics term that answers one simple question. When the price goes up, do people still buy? If a tiny price increase makes buyers run for the hills, that's high elasticity. Your offer is fragile, easily replaced, and it's competing on cost. But if you can raise your price by thousands and people still lean in, that's low elasticity. Your offer is sticky, it's solid, and it feels worth it no matter what the price tag. Now, if your offer looks, sounds, or feels like what everyone else is selling, your offers are going to be super elastic because the brain automatically anchors it against the cheapest option. So if you raise the price just a little and people start bouncing because they can get the same thing cheaper somewhere else. Now, a great example of this is gas stations. Nobody's going to pay $7 a gallon when they can get the same thing across the street for $5. It's the same product equals a price war. Now, another example is email tools, which is what's happening in my world right now. We were using ActiveCampaign and yet they kept raising their prices and I'm paying nearly $1,000 more than the next tool that basically looks and acts the same, which means my brain starts to ask, why am I paying more when I can get something for cheaper? Another great example is a freelance designer. If your pitch is, I'll design your website, you're going to see a $500 to $2,000 offers that all start to blur together and your brain starts to ask, why shouldn't I just pay someone on Fiverr to do the same thing? This is why I tell people if your buyers can compare you, they will. And that's where most businesses end up getting stuck, trapped in pricing wars, forced to outmarket, outspend, or outshout just to try and stay in the game. But when your offer is innovative, when it's truly incomparable, the rules change. There's no ceiling because there's nothing to compare it to. A great example of this is Disney versus a local amusement park. You can't compare the ticket prices because you're not buying roller coasters, you're buying the Disney experience. Nobody sits there and says, well, the local fare is $20, so Disney should be $25. It's completely incomparable. Or Apple iPhone versus a generic clone. Apple raises their prices every year and demand still grows. People aren't buying a phone, they're buying status, design, and an ecosystem. Or let's look at luxury handbags. Now, a tote from Target can cost $40, but a Louis Vuitton tote is $4,000. A bag from Chanel is $10,000. It has the same function, but wildly different pricing. Why? Because one is utilitarian and the other is cultural currency. That's why you'll see agencies that are stuck fighting over $2,000 retainers while another firm down the street is closing $20,000 contracts because they've positioned themselves around a one-of-a-kind outcome or methodology that makes comparison impossible. Now, when you're the only one who does what you do, You're not on the price battlefield. You're in a category of one. When there's nothing to compare, the brain stops resisting and starts rationalizing why it's worth it. Price only matters when buyers can compare. Remove the comparison and you end up removing the ceiling. This is why incomparability isn't just about charging more, it's about how your buyers' brains decide what's valuable in the first place. Because here's the thing, your brain is constantly running what we call value equations behind the scenes. Things like, what am I getting? How fast am I getting it? How painful is the process? And can I get this somewhere else for cheaper? Now, if the answer is yes, you're forced into price wars. If the answer is no, the brain doesn't push back. It stops hunting for the cheapest option and anchors straight to the outcome and experience that only you can deliver. The brain stops arguing, it checks out, it hands over the card. And don't think this is abstract. There's proof of it in every single day things that you pay for. Things like people paying $7 for Starbucks when gas station coffee is under $2, or the fact that we'll drop $1,200 on an iPhone when a $400 Android basically does the same thing, or Disney tickets that cost over $150 while the local amusement park is just $40. And yes, clients will pay $20,000 for a firm that does what no one else can, while agencies down the street are begging for $2,000 retainers. People don't pay because you stacked bonuses, you worked 80-hour work weeks, or you matched your worth. They pay because their brain can't compare you to anything else. It's the unicorn in the sea of horses. That's why the answer to increasing your prices by 5K, 10K, or even $50,000 more than your competitors without scaring off clients is about incomparability. It's how you become the unicorn that everyone else can't stop chasing. When your offer is truly one of a kind, buyers don't hesitate. They don't bargain. They don't justify why it's worth it. Their brain automatically says, yes, this is what I need. That's what the unicorn effect does. It makes your offer undeniably incomparable. So high prices feel like a steal and buyers lean in without resistance. So let's break down the formula behind it, which is innovative advantage plus cognitive value anchors equals unicorn pricing power. Now, innovative advantage is what makes your offer one of a kind so that there's literally nothing for them to compare it to. It's kind of like your unicorn factor. It's how you move off that battlefield of pricing wars and into your own category of one. Now, humans compare everything. It's just how our brains justify things, especially spending. But when we can't find a frame of reference, our brains don't resist. They start rationalizing why it's worth it. This is why incomparable offers have near zero price elasticity because buyers will pay more because the offer simply can't be stacked against anything else. Now, a few years ago, I needed to hire a landscaper. Now, the first guy who came out, he quoted $100 to mow and blow. Basic stuff, right? Straightforward, no frills. But as soon as he left, we sat down and started to question whether or not we needed him at all because we could technically do the same thing ourselves and price became the only factor. Now, the second guy, he showed up, he quoted us $200 and came with a long list of extras, things like fertilizing, edging, fancy cleanup, seasonal flower rotation. And sure, those things sounded impressive, but honestly, we didn't really need any of it. So we were stuck comparing, do I want to spend twice as much for features that I don't actually care about? And then the third landscaper came along. See, he didn't just offer mowing and trimming. He walked me through this plan to transform my yard into a year-round outdoor retreat. He mapped out zones for entertaining, suggested low maintenance plants that would bloom in unique patterns, and he even showed me a custom irrigation layout that solved a problem I didn't even realize I had. He didn't quote a price first, he showed me the experience and the results I couldn't get anywhere else. And just like that, price stopped being the question. I wasn't comparing him to the $100 or $200 options anymore because there was literally nothing to compare to. He had created a solution that was incomparable and undeniably valuable. And guess what? I was happy to pay 5 times more than the cheapest option because his solution was truly out of this world. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. That's what innovative advantage does. It removes comparison from the buyer's mind entirely. So instead of negotiating or debating prices, your clients are imagining themselves living inside that transformation that you deliver. They're asking, when do I start? Instead of, is this actually worth it? Now, let's break down how this works and how you can do this inside of your business. Now, the first thing to understand is how to identify innovation gaps. Now, When you understand the unicorn effect, you have to realize that you have to spot the gaps that everyone else misses, those nagging problems that your clients are desperate to solve, but nobody else is solving well. So think of Ring doorbell. Before Ring, home security was a total nightmare for the average person. So traditional security systems were expensive, complicated, and really reactive, meaning that you only found out about a problem after it happened. So people were frustrated, they were confused, and honestly feeling a little bit helpless. Now, some companies tried to fix it with fancy cameras or alarm systems, but they were either too pricey, too hard to install, or they were just too disconnected from real life. The innovation gap was really clear. People wanted a simple and proactive way to protect their homes, but nobody was actually delivering it. Enter Ring. They didn't just make another security camera. They created a solution that solved multiple pain points all at once. Easy installation, live notifications on your phone, and a simple way to see and speak to anyone at your door from anywhere. Now, suddenly, it wasn't about comparing brands or debating prices. There was literally nothing else like it. So Ring was no longer competing with $20 doorbells. They created a brand new category that solved a major innovation gap, and they could charge $199 for their base model. Now, people happily paid. And in December 2020 alone, Amazon sold over 400,000 Ring devices and accessories, proving that when you remove comparison, buyers prioritize value over price. And that's exactly what identifying an innovation gap does for your business. You end up finding the areas that your clients are frustrated, desperate, or stuck in, and you create a solution that only you can deliver. Now, here's the key for service businesses. Your Ring isn't a product, it's an innovative methodology. So that's the codified IP that solves the gap that your clients are desperate to fix. It's repeatable, it's reliable, it's impossible to get anywhere else. So instead of a physical product, it's about offering a proprietary approach that delivers transformation that your competitors can't touch. Now, the moment that you do this, you stop competing on features, hours, or price, and you become the only option, the unicorn that makes your value undeniable. Now, a few questions I want you to sit down and ask yourself are, what are the nagging problems that my clients are desperate to solve that no one else is solving? Which frustrations or inefficiencies are people silently enduring because the market hasn't addressed them? Or if my offer disappeared tomorrow, would clients struggle to find a comparable solution elsewhere? Now, once you've built your innovative advantage, the thing that makes your offer completely one of a kind, the next step is actually anchoring that value inside of your buyer's mind. Because here's the reality: uniqueness might get attention, but it doesn't automatically justify a higher price. And you've probably felt this before. If you've had something really incredible, you've shared it with people, and they've still said, I can't afford this. Your clients actually need a mental framework that makes them feel without a doubt that this is worth every single penny and then some. That's where cognitive value anchors come in. Think of them like the frame around a painting. The painting itself is your innovative advantage, and it's beautiful, it's unique, it's compelling, but the frame is your cognitive value anchors. Those are what tell the brain that this is important, this is premium, this is worth your focus and investments. So imagine that you go to a wine tasting and you're handed a glass of wine and told it's $5. Sure, it might taste okay, but there's no context, right? Then you're given the same wine in a crystal glass described as a rare vintage with notes of cherry, oak, and spice, and suddenly your brain justifies spending $50. It's the same wine, but different perception. That's the power of anchoring value. So here's how it works in business. It frames your solution around outcomes that matter deeply to your clients, not just features or tasks. And then it positions your offer relative to results, not just competitors, because comparison was already removed by creating your innovative advantage. And then it creates a mental justification so that even high ticket pricing feels natural, obvious, and really safe for your buyers. So a great way to exemplify this is Peloton. See, their stationary bikes cost about $2,000, which is way more than standard bikes, but they didn't just sell the bike. They sold a full experience, live classes, community, gamified achievements, and a lifestyle transformation. So buyers aren't asking, could I get a cheaper bike? They're thinking, how soon can I start this experience? So the value anchor is the immersive lifestyle, not the pedals or the resistance knob. So cognitive value is kind of like a magnet. Your innovation is the metal, but without the magnet, it's kind of just sitting there. Once you anchor your value in your buyer's mind, their brain is drawn to the price, and that decision feels really effortless. Now, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. What specific outcomes or transformations make my offer irreplaceable? And then how can I describe my solution so my client's brain instantly connects it to their life, their goals, their relief from that pain? And last is what proof, what context, what story can I layer in that removes hesitation and makes those higher prices feel like a total no-brainer? When you combine your innovative advantage with strong cognitive value anchors, you're not just unique, you're irresistible. You've created a solution that no one else offers, and you made it feel so valuable that buyers practically want to pay it all by themselves. So price objections are gone, comparison questions gone, hesitation is minimal. Your clients aren't asking, is this worth it? They're saying, when can I get started? And that's exactly the point, right? When your offer is incomparable and its value is anchored in your buyer's brain, the decision to invest becomes almost automatic. Now, here's the next puzzle piece is turning that anchored value into action, making it easy for buyers to actually say yes. So this is where the easiest method comes in, because you can have the most innovative offer in the world and crystal clear value, but if the buying experience feels complicated, confusing, or risky, your clients will actually end up hesitating. So the easiest method is the step-by-step system that makes your offer clear, simple, and irresistible, so the buyers don't even have to think twice about it. And it takes that friction out of the decision-making process because they see the value, they feel that result, and that yes becomes supernatural. So there's three parts behind the easiest method, with the first being actually winning the market. So I want you to think about it this way. Your ideal clients, the ones who are ready to invest right now, they're not scrolling endlessly or comparing dozens of options. They're searching for a solution that makes them say, holy crap, where has this been all my life? Now, most businesses never actually get here because they're too busy tweaking ads, posting more content, or fighting a pricing war. But when you uncover your innovation gap, that problem that no one else is solving in the way that you do, everything else changes because you stop being just another option. You're no longer commoditized. You become the unicorn that they can't ignore. So I've had clients who are able to do this and actually raise their prices by 5 to 10x using just this step alone, because instead of chasing clients, they have people who are lining up, eager to pay for a solution they know they can't get anywhere else. Now, only when you have that next, it's turning that method into a bingeable decision system. So I want you to think about this is where cognitive value anchors actually come to life. Think about how when you watch Netflix, it keeps you glued to the screen for hours. And it's not because you're being forced to do that. It's because that story pulls you in one episode at a time. Now, imagine that your buyers experience your methodology in the same way. So each touch point, each email, each piece of content guided them naturally through your process, revealing your innovative approach, your results, and actually making that incomparable value simple for them to understand. So by the time they finish, they're not debating the price. They're not second guessing themselves. They've already convinced themselves that you are the only choice for them. This is what we call the bingeable decision system. Now, the reason it works is because it's powered by what we call mirror decision making. So it takes and mirrors the exact process that humans go through to make decisions. So each step in the process actually pulls them closer to a yes until it becomes the only obvious move. So there's no chasing, no long, let me get back to you cycles, just clients who are happy to say yes. Now, the third and final piece is delivering on the promise. Now, most businesses miss this because once demand is created, they think that that's all they have to do, but you have to actually deliver. Your business isn't just built on marketing alone. It's built on clients who actually get results so undeniable that they become your best promoters, your biggest sales team. That's why we designed the Happy Client Machine. It's a system that ensures world-class results at scale without everything falling on your shoulders. So your clients become raving fans, your results become proof, and your reputation grows so strong that the market itself validates your premium pricing. This is the power behind the ECS method. It's about creating a business where your innovation, your method, and the way you frame your value makes you the only choice in your market, that unicorn that everyone wants to work with. So if you've heard enough and you're an action taker, you want to see how this actually looks like inside of your business, I'd love to invite you to apply for what we call a growth optimization call. On this call, we'll dive into your client acquisition approach, we'll uncover your innovation gaps, and I'll show you how we can position your work so clients are chasing you down instead of the other way around. And then I'll show you how we use the EasyYes method to turn this into a bingeable movement. So head on over to easyesleads.com/call to apply, or check the notes down below. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper, or you just want to see what the Netflix effect is all about, I want to invite you to check out our free on-demand series that walks you through how we actually turn your method into a movement and your marketing into a self-selling system. So head on over to thenetflixeffect.com right now to watch it. Now, lastly, I hope that you're walking away from this episode thinking differently, having a way to be able to say, this is what's been missing from my business. If you have, I would love and appreciate it if you could take just 60 seconds to rate, review, or share this episode with a friend so that we can help more experts create a method that turns into a movement. So until next time, here's to keeping it real.